You're listening to the Big and Tall Sports Show with your hosts Pete Apostolopoulos and Alec Reed.
How's it going, everybody? Welcome to the second ever Big and Tall Sports Podcast exclusive interview. We are joined by 2016 Grey Cup champion, most outstanding Canadian in the Grey Cup, and 2015 most outstanding Canadian, Brad Sinopoli. Brad, how are you doing today?
Doing good. How you doing?
I'm good. Brad and I actually go way back. Not sure if you remember, I was a quarterback back in Peterborough, where you're from, and you coached a coaching clinic, a little quarterback clinic at Crestwood Secondary in the gym. And I was actually there with you, so I don't know if you remember that, but
that was a long time ago, right?
Yeah, that would have been I guess 6 or 7 years ago now. So
yeah,
would have been, I guess, your last year at Ottawa, I think, is when it was. So 2010, 2011, somewhere around there.
Well, hopefully I taught you some good things. I don't know.
Well, I got
quarterback
to go.
didn't quite work out for me. So.
Yeah, it didn't work out too well for me either. I got 1 year at the University of Guelph, and I changed the tight end. So it must be a Peterborough thing, right?
Yeah, I'm sure it is, eh?
Yeah.
So, Brad, bit of an interesting story. Obviously, you just touched on it. You were a quarterback in university, and then you moved to wide receiver after 2 years of pro, correct?
Yep. Yeah. So, that was after my second year. I had played a little bit. I played about 3 games actually my second year when I was at Ottawa U. So I had a little bit of experience, but it changed over my second year there, and my God, it's been 4 years now. It's crazy.
So, Brad, it's not even like you weren't that successful of a quarterback. Brad actually won the Heck Crichton Award, which is the most valuable player in Canadian University football, and set a school record at Ottawa with 2,700 passing yards in 8 games. Which, if you do the math, that's 345 yards per game is what we were saying. So, to kind of describe the transition. For the folks at home who don't know what it's like to go from quarterback to receiver, just kind of describe that transition and what it took for you, especially to make that switch.
Yeah, actually, they're pretty similar. I think mentally wise, quarterback and receivers are kind of always trying to get on the same page and understanding defenses and zones and all that stuff. And so when I switched over, I understood at least what they were trying to do in the receiver position. It just was a matter of, physically being able to run the routes and stem and catch the ball and all this stuff. And, it was really hard. I went through kind of a rough period at the beginning and, dropped a lot of balls. It really wasn't that good. And, I was very fortunate to have some really good people around me at the time to, motivation-wise, and just kind of kept helping me along and were patient with me. And, I just felt like I was in the right place at the right time in Calgary, and just very thankful for the people that were there.
Because you went from being a quarterback to another position, do you think that would have been easy? It was an easier transition for you than somebody who's moving, like we've seen guys like Richard Sherman move from from wide receiver to defensive back. Do you think that because you were on the same side of the ball, it was a bit easier, and because you knew the playbook so well because of your initial position?
Yeah, for sure. I think that's accurate. I think for to move from offense to defense, it's fairly different just in terms of play calls and how long play calls are, and just terminology alone. So, to move within the offense is, like I said, it isn't as tough as maybe people think. It's just, again, it's the physical part of it, like understanding, what we're trying to accomplish on each play and just schematics and all that stuff. Generally everyone on offense has that knowledge. So, I just had to get used to, I tried to catch as many balls as I could leading up to my first year there, and got any quarterback in Peterborough to come out and throw me the ball. So I was lucky that way, and just try to do anything I could to give myself the best opportunity.
Now, going from CIS football to the CFL is a little different than if you were going from, say, the NCAA to the NFL, because the seasons don't really match up. The CFL is obviously a summer season that goes into the fall. Is it weird those first couple of years transitioning from having always played in the fall into the winter to now going from being in the spring, summer, and then ending in the fall?
Oh yeah, for sure. It's just starting. Yeah, like you said, starting in the spring is a lot different. Just in terms of your body and your mind and what you're used to, and playing right through the middle of summer. In university, you never really get that, especially in high school too. We might get 1 or 2 games of nice weather, and then usually it gets into that kind of chilly fall weather, and just the extra games. To be honest with you, it was quite a transition. It's I think you go from 8 to maybe 10 to 11 in university, to about 18, and plus 2 or 3 for playoffs. So that was the tough thing, just getting your body used to that, and but everyone's got to go through it.
How is I'm sure a lot of people don't even realize that you've been on 3 teams, right, that have been to a Grey Cup. Obviously, the 100th Grey Cup, you were the 3rd string quarterback when I think it was Drew Tate went down.
Yep.
And then, unfortunately, a few years ago with Calgary, you broke your collarbone, right, and missed the Grey Cup there.
Yep.
And then this past year, winning the Grey Cup with Ottawa. What was take out the one where you didn't get to play, but what's the kind of culture like between when you were with Calgary, your first Grey Cup, and then this year with Ottawa? What was the different mentality or maybe different approaches that you kind of felt between the 2 teams?
Yeah, I think the main difference is just the experience in the organizations. Calgary's been to Grey Cups before. The coaching staff has been there together as a staff, and there's just how they handle the week and how everything's organized, and just kind of the mentality leading up to it is, they're very confident in what they do, and it's worked for them. Whereas at Ottawa, actually I was there 2 years ago when the first time we went, we lost to Edmonton in the Grey Cup, and just looking on that one, it kind of was a new experience for everyone. Just being together for the first time in a team, and just the organization, the fan base. So there was a little bit of uncertainty how the week goes. No one's really familiar with kind of the whole process, and we had to get used to that, and that's one good thing about that led us to the next year. We had that experience going into it.
Now, you guys weren't necessarily a team to look out for in the playoffs, especially when you guys went into the Grey Cup against a heavily favored team. What was it like to be an underdog in that situation? Because not a lot of people thought that you guys would be able to pull off a win in that game.
No, I don't think anyone did. It seemed like, at least. But I think a lot of guys. There's guys that have been around the league for a little bit, and they understand that in the CFL, really, you just have to get into the playoffs and really just play your best football at the end of the year, and just kind of catch a streak, and we can kind of feel ourselves doing that, towards the end of the year, and in the East Final we played really well, and that was a really tough game, tough weather, and Edmonton's a great team, and guys just had belief that we could do it. We did it last year. We made or played through some great tough games, and we came out on top. And, just belief in each other, and just we just kind of had this quiet confidence about us.
So now, obviously, a couple of successful years back to back, and then kind of the unfortunate news in Ottawa with Henry Burris retiring. How does the mindset change for next year? I mean, obviously the goal is every year to win the Grey Cup, but going into next year, how are you guys preparing, and what's kind of the goal and the mindset for the Ottawa Red Blacks?
I think it's the same as how we went into this season and the one before that, and we're trying to do our best to get the best guys in there to get to the Grey Cup. And the thing about football is that you always have to reload. Guys get injured, other guys step in and step up, and it's unfortunate. Hank retired, and we're surely going to miss him. The league's going to miss him, but that's part of football. We're going to move on, and Trevor's a great quarterback as well, and played very well this year for us, and we're excited to work with him, and that's it. We're just moving forward and try to win that Grey Cup next year as well.
If you could kind of touch on kind of the transition from year to year, kind of how does the offseason work for a CFL player? Because I know I still hang out with some CFL players I played with in Guelph who come back to Guelph and work out with us in the gym. What's kind of your off season like because it's not like you have the same sort of capabilities as these NFL players that can get all these resources and everything. What's kind of the CFL off season for you?
Well, usually right after the season, depending on how you feel and stuff, I take a little bit of time off, take December off, and kind of relax, feel some injuries, hang out with family and Christmas and all that stuff. And usually right after Christmas, I get back into it. I start lifting again and doing a lot of stretching and, if there's any rehab to take care of. But, just in the gym every day. We head out to an indoor track here in Ottawa, usually about 3 times a week, and slowly kind of ease back into running and sprinting and doing route running and all that stuff. And we basically try to do that until it gets nice weather, and then we can pop outside. Usually some guys are in town by then, and we'll start throwing around. And that's pretty much it. Maybe just less resources as guys down in the south, but just a lot of hard work to get ready for the season. Is
there kind of a certain group of guys that you've gotten together with, and maybe when you came over from Calgary, was there kind of what kind of led you to Ottawa? I know you went to school in Ottawa, but was there a certain group of guys, or maybe it was a sentimental feeling going back to Ottawa? But what kind of led you to sign with the Red Blacks a few years ago?
I think there was a couple factors. I think being able to like you said, come back to a place where I'm familiar with and went to school here, and I have family here, and my girlfriend is here, and so just in terms of life, Ottawa was a good fit. But they just had everything kind of going in the right direction, and I knew Rick Campbell, when he was in Calgary, and I loved him as a coach and kind of everything he stood for, and they signed a lot of great free agents at that time too, Greg Ellingson and Ernest Jackson, and just all these guys that are just great players, and so you can kind of see just the culture changing a little bit, and just the right guys were getting in the right place, and it just seemed like a great fit, kind of a new beginning, and I jumped at it when I had the chance.
So you just touched on it a little bit with, the changing of cultures, especially because you guys are a newer team in the CFL again, as Ottawa went away for about 10, 15 years, and then they were reintroduced to the league. Being a Canadian in the CFL, you've kind of always been familiar with the game growing up, obviously. What is it like interacting and kind of teaching on the fly to some of your American teammates who might not be as familiar with the game as you are, having grown up with it and playing in a Canadian system for most of your career?
Yeah, sometimes it's pretty funny. It's funny you bring that up. There's a lot of guys every year. There's always a new group of guys that have never, seen a game or really talked to anyone about it. So right away they notice obviously the waggle, and if they're a defensive guy, just kind of how messed up it is that you have to cover a guy that's sprinting at you and all this stuff. And so it's kind of funny that there's a lot of little things, ins and outs about the game. They kind of you can tell them so much, but until they experience it, even sometimes it's a little funny in practice, but, it's all part of it. I think the biggest thing too, a lot of guys that are from down south aren't really prepared for the cold weather, especially when it gets later in the season. We always, kind of always tease them, tell them that it gets a little colder than what it is, usually around minus 40 or whatever, and, get them a little scared, but it's all in good fun.
If you could, I know the biggest rule that I guess messes with the American guys is the run at the line of scrimmage. And being a guy with little acceleration like myself, I'm not saying you are, I'm saying I am. Before I'll preface that.
Both of us are.
Yeah. I certainly prefer the line of scrimmage run up. Do you prefer the wide out roll and kind of the traditional stand on the line of scrimmage, or do you like the run up like myself, like I do?
Well, I'm the same as you. I'm not a big guy, like accelerating guy. I'm kind of a taller, definitely need the run up. So I'm kind of biased when I think about it. But, I don't know. I've watched it my entire life growing up. So to me, it's normal. To me, it's I like it. I think it's just in playing the position, it's obviously very fun to do. There's so many things you can play with in your stem, and how you attack the line of scrimmage and what angles you run at the DB from, and change of speed, all that stuff. There's just so many things that you can kind of put together, and it makes it fun. And those guys, you gotta give them credit to be able to defend guys running at them on defense. Those guys have an extremely hard job.
So you've been in the league for a few years, and obviously coming back to back spectacular years. Are there any moments or kind of specific memories? Obviously, winning the Grey Cup and being the most outstanding Canadian is pretty good. But are there any other moments that kind of jump out for you for your career that you're kind of thankful for, or that you really remember vividly as like, wow, like I'm playing football for a living and this is amazing?
Oh man, it feels like every time I run out there, I feel that feeling. I can't believe it. It's that I'm this lucky to kind of, like you said, just do what I love and get to play football for a living. And Ottawa's an amazing city for that. The fans come out and they're amazing every night, and you're just really thankful for that, and that people are sharing that passion. And but I think the biggest thing probably that stands out is last year, I guess 2 years ago now in the East Final, that game-winning catch that Greg Ellingson had made, and that's a very historic thing that happened in sports here now in Ottawa, and I feel like they're going to be talking about that one for a while. And just to be on the field, to experience the excitement, in the stadium and all that after the game, and the buzz about the catch and everything was, a pretty unique experience.
One last question here before we wrap it up. I kind of always like to ask this, but other than Ottawa, where's your favorite stadium to play at? I know you'll probably say Ottawa because it's your home stadium, but what's your favorite, I guess, road stadium to head into? What's the best atmosphere? What's your favorite place to play?
What I always felt going to Saskatchewan was pretty cool, especially coming from Calgary, and they just kind of had a rivalry thing there, and and there was a little thing with Henry too in Saskatchewan, so I experienced that in Calgary with him, and then obviously again in Ottawa, going back to Saskatchewan. So they're just crazy. I mean, in Regina, they're so excited. They come from everywhere in the province for those games, and you look up and see guys in the coldest weather with no shirt on and a watermelon on their head. So, it's just really cool, and I can't wait to play in their new stadium. It looks cool and big, and it's probably going to be loud.
Well, Brad, thanks so much for joining us. We really appreciate it, and I'll be sure to say hi to Andrew, my cousin, for you. That you guys used to play together in high school, so I'll be sure to say hello to him. Thanks again for joining us. Best of luck next year, and I'll be sure to catch you at an Argos game wearing my Argos jersey and hat. So thanks again for joining us.
Thanks a lot, Brad.
No, thank you guys. I appreciate it.
Best of luck this year.
And that's going to do it for us on the second ever Big and Tall Sports Podcast exclusive interview with Ottawa Red Blacks wide receiver Brad Sinopoli. Thanks for joining us.